So I'm going to go back to our other design and I'm going to show you how to, kind of the math involved and how I did all this. It's not that hard if you use expand. Expand makes it easy. So, but I'll go back to design, open recent. This one is the one I was on. Okay. So let's say that we have an 8-inch block. So those blue seam lines are 8 inches. Okay. Well, I only want to work in millimeters. So for me to figure out what 8 inches is in mils, I'm just going to kind of estimate 8 times 25.4, that's the conversion factor, is 203.2 millimeters. I'm just going to use 203. So I'm going to say that my seams of my quilt, okay, 8 inches is about 203 millimeters. So I'm going to make a square outline that's 203 by 203. So I'll select this one, say, and just do Control C, Control V. I'm not even going to deal with this anymore. And in fact, I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to delete all these because I'm not going to use them. And I will leave that be for right now. It's hidden. And this box is hidden, but I'm going to bring that back. Okay. And I'm going to erase my options guides. Erase them. But I'm also going to do options guides, lock them for when I do make them. That way I won't have to worry about them. So this we're going to make 203 by 203. Oh, looks like I already made it. 203 by 203. But if you didn't, go ahead and go to the transformation window. And if it was a rectangle, make sure this is off and click here. 203. Same thing here. Click apply. And then you do have to click this to close out. And if it's not already centered, it should be. Hold Control and Alt and then C. So that represents your seams. So I'm going to make it like a bright blue. Okay. And so from there, we want to create our echo line. And remember, our echo line is going to be a 1/4 inch off of this 203. So I'm just going to Control C, Control V. So I copied and pasted it. This is going to be an echo line, so it's going to be the right color. I'm just going to go with the green. Okay. So, but this is going to be 12 millimeters shrunk from here, six on each side. So I'm going to select it and I'll go to Transform, Offset, Shrink Object, click here. Remember, I can only go 10 at a time. So I'll go 10 first, check, okay, and then I'll do it again. Transform, Offset, Shrink. And this time I'll click 2. I only have to hit Enter 1 since I clicked, up in one of those boxes or one of those buttons, and hit check. And there we go. So now this one is shrunk. And so then from here, I want to kind of make something that's 12 millimeters smaller than this. Okay, it's just going to be like another guide for me. So I'll make it a funky color, but it's going to give me an idea of how big I have to make my mesh object. So I'm going to just take this one and do Control C, Control V. And maybe I'll make it yellow because I know I'm going to have to delete it. And it has to be shrunk another 12 from here because this is going to represent the size of my final mesh. So we'll go to transform, offset, shrink. 2 is already selected, so we'll just do the 2 first. And then we'll do it again, transform, offset, shrink. And we'll do 10, check. So that's representing our mesh object, like our final stitching of our mesh object, okay? Because remember, the mesh object, when it stitches, it usually stitches in more from whatever the mesh object boundaries are. So that's a little confusing. So the way I've been estimating it is that for me, my actual stitching, let me bring this back and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, let's, come on, bring it back. Okay. So if I generate this mesh object with all the parameters that I had, okay, the actual stitches themselves are like, you know, this is like at 45 and say this is maybe at like 65. Well, the stitches are like 20 millimeters, you know, in from the actual boundary of the mesh object. So that makes you think if the yellow is going to represent my stitches, then really my mesh object should probably be 20 millimeters bigger, okay? But here's the thing. This is where it gets really confusing. This box represents after we did the auto repeat, but still we want to come in 20 mils even on our half one. So, and even at the bottom too. And if you're not sure of the difference, you can always just take your mesh object and convert fill mesh sfumato, create outlines, and see how big your actual stitches are, because the outlines are going to show a bounding box seat right up to it, right up to the stitches. So you look down here, we're at 121. My original mesh was 142. So I'm going to just estimate 20 mils in. Okay. So with that in mind, I'm just going to delete that. Okay. So with that in mind, I have to say to myself, okay, this is what this yellow one is representing me after I do auto repeat. Okay, it's basically the stitches. So yes, I want my stitches to be where this yellow box is, but I'm only generating half of it at first. So basically from, you know, this 0 mark to here is what my mesh object is going to be after it's converted to stitches. So that means that half of this has got to be another guideline. So right now, if I look down, you know, this yellow box is 179. 179 divided by 2 is 89.5. So 89.5 could be another box that I want. Okay. So I'm going to just Control C, Control V, and I'm going to make another yellow object. And I'm just going to go to the transformation window and I'm going to resize this to, I'll keep this off and I'll just resize it to 89.5. And hit apply. Okay, and there's my new box. I might have to make these a darker color just so we could see them better. Well, orange is so close to the red. Let me make them purple. Okay. So this small rectangle here represents our stitches. You know, after we've converted this to outlines, that's what this represents. So this, if we look down here, I'm going to write this down. It says 89.5 by 179. Well, we know that when we make our mesh object, okay, our mesh object has to be made 20 millimeters wider and 20 millimeters taller than this stitch representation rectangle. Okay, so 89.5 plus 20 is 109.5, and 179 plus 20 is 199 mils. So that's what our real representation of our mesh object should be. So we're going to go up here to our mesh object, and we're just going to make it 109.5 by 199. And I can actually basically make another one of these, Control C, Control V, and make it that size. I'll click on it. I'll go into Transform, Transformation Window, and Control A, 109.5, enter, enter, and then this one was Control A, 199, enter, enter, hit apply, hit OK, and I guess I could make this one like maybe orange. I don't know. Just maybe we could see it a little better. So, and remember, I made everything with the transformation window, so everything stayed centered. So this mesh object here, I can go ahead and bring that to center just so it doesn't confuse you. Control Alt C, you know. And I can go ahead and basically, let's see, this is my seam, this is my echo, and then these two I'm just going to hide so we don't get too confused. Click on this one and hide it. So remember now, this is representing what we want our mesh to be. This one is representing what we want the stitches to end up being once we generate our mesh. But let's go back up to the mesh and let's make it the same size as this one. So we'll go to the transformation window, and I'm just going to resize it here using the transformation window instead of like moving nodes and whatnot. So I'll just click on here, and it was 109.5. Whoops. Click in here, Control A, 109.5, enter, enter. And then click in here, Control A, 199. Okay, hit apply and OK. And that's what our mesh object should be. And I'm just gonna, I think I locked my guides. Let me take this guide out. guides, erase. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and see how this generates. First of all, let me click edit. My mesh origin is still where it's supposed to be. Fabulous. So it didn't move. That's because I didn't like do auto repeat and mirror with it. I just resized it. So the resizing didn't affect it. That's good. So let's just hit that. Okay, so let's go ahead and select it and let's refresh our memory of all of our programs on it, just for refresh our memory. Click a web to open. Okay, so we're from origin point, range 1, count 20, scale 200, interior seed 18. Flowers are at 50%, amount 100. They're the roses. And our leaves, we have leaf 3. Leaf width is 50%. Leaf length is 100%. And curliness is 25. Let's click apply and see what we get. If we don't get something pretty, we might have to slightly adjust. Oh, it is pretty. It is pretty. I kind of wish there wasn't a gap there, but, and we only have like one row, so to speak, down here. You know, let's go ahead and hit done and see if it's the size of our smaller box. Let's bring that back and just see. That's the size we want. If I were to center it once the stitching is done, it's going to move down and it's going to move over. So I think it is the right size. So let's just see. Let's actually go forward. Let's Control S. Let's go forward with it and let's convert it to outlines and see, and then we'll center that. Because the vector object is centered. If you recall, we centered it. I mean, you can see just by it being selected, it's at 0 here. And, you know, down here, this is at 0. We want to see what the real stitches looks like centered, if it fits within this purple box. So let's go ahead with it selected. We'll go to Convert, Fill Mesh Sfumato, Create Outlines from Mesh. Okay, and here it is down here, and you can see now the bounding box is completely tight up against the flowers. It's not centered, you know, because it's following the bounding box. Let's hold Control and Alt C. It's pretty darn close within that purple box. Let's hide the original mesh so we don't get confused. Okay, it does come up a little, you know, but over here on the width, it's pretty good. It's maybe not here, you know, but this is an organic design. We could go with it, or we could say, you know, I want to make it wider, but I want to make the mesh object a little bit wider, but a little bit shorter. And then maybe I'll conform to this better. We could try that and see. Here's the purple box. Okay. And if I take my measure and I kind of try and zoom in a little bit, I'll just use I'll use this side maybe. So from say here to the purple box, about 4 millimeters. If we expand it, it's going to do the height too. We're going to have to use the transformation window. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to increase the width by 9 mils. And that might be too much. Maybe I should go half of 9. I'm not sure if I'm doing this math right. Oh, I should have kept the measure on. And then let's see, we're over too far. Okay. So let's just measure from, say, here to here. So about 3. So we want to make it, say, 6 mils. We want to minus 6 mils on the height. So let's just try that. I could be wrong. I could have not be thinking this clearly and need to go half those two amounts. But let's go to our original mesh. And like I said, let's delete this so we don't get confused. We're going to go to our original mesh. I'm just going to bring it back. And I'm going to go to the transformation window, or Control-Alt-T. And I'm going to add 9 to this. So this will be 118.5. Enter, enter. And I'm going to subtract 6 off of this. So this will be 193. Enter, enter. Apply. Okay. And I'll hit Control-1. And let's just see. I'm going to hit Control-S and then generate. So remember, we're not going to really see it truly until we convert it. Okay, there it is. It looks cute still. Let's convert. Fill mesh sfumato, create outlines. Here's our outlines. Let's hide our original mesh. Okay. Here's our outlines, Control-Alt-C. And it does fit within the purple a little better. A little better. You know, it's not flush up against the top like some of our other ones were, but I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And remember, here's another thing. Since we're connecting our design up here in the center once we mirror it with that pretty little petal or whatever, we didn't have to have our mesh origin over here, just so you know. Because having the mesh origin over there, since we're not connecting over here anymore, it might look a little funny with this just sticking out. So if you did want to just delete this little section here, I'll show you how to do it. It's so easy. And you may notice this is a different mesh because I'm kind of interrupting the video. There's been some issues with the mesh where I lose the origin, and I might have mentioned this already. So I just created a new mesh, and I do like how this one looks. And I'll go ahead and show you how I would delete this little segment here. Remember, it's a double, you know, these are double runs, these curly plants, so there'll be 2 of these, but you can't delete it while it's a mesh. So here's the mesh. This is a mesh object. And what you have to do is you have to go ahead and convert it, convert, fill mesh, create outlines from mesh. So you have to create outlines. And I already did that. Here it is here. I hit it and I changed the color. So this is what I'll work with to get rid of this segment. And I just do really like the way it cascades down when you have the mesh origin in the corner. I just think it looks really pretty. So I'm just going to delete this segment. And then the rest of the video, I'll show you different origin points and more in-depth details about working with this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide the original mesh. So we'll hide that. And we'll bring back the outlines that I converted it to. And if you want to isolate these segments, remember there's more than one and they could be attached to something else. You have to basically, I mean, you don't have to, but the easiest way is to ungroup this. You see it down here. So I'm going to right click, groups, ungroup, and then just, select anywhere outside. Let me drag this down. Okay, so you see I have 229 objects as part of this outline, and I found the easiest way to select this is to just use the magic wand. So I'll click on the magic wand, and I should have zoomed in. Let's drag it down. Okay, and I'll just click, 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 and kind of, get it all encompassed inside, and then hit select. And you can see it selected like a whole outline, and it selected these last two objects down here. Well, these two are probably the ones we need to work with, but the other selections, let's scroll up, it selected my mesh. So even though the mesh was hidden, it still selected it. So I'll just hold Control and unselect it. So now I'll go back down to the bottom. And if you see these by themselves, you can delete them. That's just like a stitch penetration. It's kind of not necessary. So as long as it's by itself with nothing on it, you can delete it. So I'm just going to click it and hit delete, and you'll see that I didn't get any scissors there. Or you could leave them, but I found that those sometimes can make a loop, like in your embroidery. So 27 is actually, I'll do Control 1. 27 is actually the exact, segment that we want to delete. But I'm going to leave it there just so that I could make sure when I go to 228, make sure that I'm separating 228 in the right spot. Okay, so I'll do 228 first. So I'll go ahead and edit, because obviously I have to split this. And so if you look here, you could say to yourself, well, should I split it on this node, or should I split it on this node? And I think that other one came down to here. But what we can do is we can just click on this one and right click split object. And we don't have to delete it or anything yet, but we can go up to 227. Okay, see, I deleted the wrong node, because you could see how it jumped. So if I go to 228, it'll jump down. Okay, so, and I should have seen that there's like a divot here. So I'll just Control Z, because I didn't delete it yet. And now I know. So I will go back to 228 and hit edit. And now click this one and split. Right click, split. And then I can just delete them both. I'll hold Control and select 227 and hit delete. And they're gone. And the other thing I could do, because, this looks a little weird right here. I don't really like how it looks. So I can edit this to make it prettier. I think what I'll do, I'll first just see if I can do it. I'll click on that. I'm going to see if I can do it just without making usually I make a circle. I take the outline tool and I make a circle or an oval. and then I snap to that so that everything is perfect. But I'm going to maybe make a little bit different shape. So I'm going to work with this top one and note that, there's going to be an outline underneath it because it's double layer. So I'll just work with the top one and I'll hit edit. And it starts here. And I could reverse it. Just remember to reverse it back. But I'm going to leave it the way it is. And I'll just kind of, I don't know, I might click down here. And start deleting these. Maybe up to that point. And I could again take the magic wand and, I could just draw a box. What's nice about Studio Next is you can draw, or you can use, whoops, you can use the magic wand. I'll click this one. And while you're in edit mode, that's really nice. So I could have done that and did select and then hit delete. Well, I didn't really want to get rid of that one though. So let's just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'll click outside, click again. Oh, it's still doing that. Okay. So that one is connected. So let me zoom in some more. Okay, so this square node goes with this round node. So I want to delete these. Got it. Okay. I'm not sure what I want to do. I guess I'll just try it like that. And, I don't know. I might want to come down. And I'm just going to delete all the square nodes and just have one round node and see. Yeah, that's not going to go well. So, for me to make this one to look good, see, Embird even had a hard time with it. I don't know how good that's going to look. It doesn't look rounded anymore, but still. And then here, I'm going to insert, so I get a square node. Yeah, I don't know if I'm that artistic. Let's see. How do I feel about something like that? Let's just hit enter and see. Yeah, that doesn't look good at all. I'm going to just get rid of this square node after all. And I'm snapping to the grid, so I'm just going to uncheck that. Make sure this line and this line are kind of in the same plane, on either side of the square node. If not, if you're not sure, you can insert so that you have a square node on either side of the opposing square node. Keep inserting and then delete this one. And then maybe smooth it out. I'm not sure if it was bad. It was probably fine. Yeah, I'm not crazy about this. And this is when a lot of times I make an oval or a circle. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but let's see. I'm going to go with it. I think it was better than it was. So I'll hit Control S. I'll click outside and then I'll select this because obviously that's the other one. So now I can click Snap to Node, and I only have a few nodes here, so I know I have one there. I can delete this. Let's delete this one after all. Okay. And then let's just get rid of a bunch of these. Okay. Snap. Looks like I needed more nodes here. So let's see. Okay, I'm snapping there. So it does look like I need another node. Just so that to make it easy on myself. There we go. Okay. This is messed up here. For some reason. I messed it up. I didn't do it right. Okay, it was there. Okay, so see, that's why if you snap to the nodes, then you know you're, so I need another one. You know that you're good and you don't have to worry too much, but it looks like I have like a different amount of nodes. So I'm going to just take this one and snap to object edge. I'm going to cheat. It still doesn't look right here though, to be honest. Yeah, it doesn't look right. So when that happens, a lot of times like I said, I'll make a circle if I don't want to have to deal with all of this funniness. So I'll grab the outline tool, click, shape, ellipse, 16 elements. This is more oval shaped. I'll just click anywhere. Kind of bring it down. And you could see up here is where I've kind of decided that that's where I'm going to like start. So I'm not going to do anything right here because they're pretty much on top of each other. But down here, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And come back up again. Okay, I'm not quite getting it. I'm looking right there. Okay. And so this point is kind of intersecting, and then this is kind of flush. So I'm good with that. So I'm going to snap to this circle. Now the other thing I could do is just use this circle. But then I'd have to like put it in place of this and that. And I don't feel like doing all that. So, you know, I'd have to like split it and everything. So I'm going to hit Control S, click outside. I'll go back on here. I'm going to make my circle a brighter color. I don't know, maybe I'll make it pink. And then, because I keep selecting this circle, I'll just click here. Okay, at least I got one of them. And I'll just edit it. So let's see. I'm going to snap to node again. I could have them both checked. Let's see. Okay, I'm on a node. I'm going to click there. So I'm snapping to the circle, and what's hard about when you have a double layer is that you don't know really if you're snapping to the circle or if you're snapping to, I better click object edge, the other mesh, because, you know, they're very close. Let's zoom in here. And you can see here I'm not on the pink circle. So I'm just going to uncheck snap to node and okay, there. Okay. And this kind of doesn't look like I was on the circle well. Now I'm not on a node. I'm not on the node anymore of the circle. But like I said, sometimes that's hard because if your nodes aren't exactly, you know, same number or what have you, but I think that's good. Down here, it's not right. Okay, so there's a note there. Snap to node. Okay, so we'll go ahead and insert. There's that one. And then this one will just be a snap to object edge. I hope I'm on the pink. I don't believe I am. Yeah, because see that other one is in there. Okay, I got it. Okay. So I'm going to go with that, and I am going to, I'll just hide the circle. The one we just did is that one. And then the other one, where was the other one? Let's see if I could select it. It's not going to let me. Let's hide this one that I did. And then I can select this. Okay, so it's way in a different spot. I mean, I don't really have to find it, but I'd like to because I have to bring back the other circle to snap to it. Didn't I just pass it? Yeah, 110. And there's some yellow circles up there too. So 110 is what I want. So let's bring this back so I could see it and snap to it. Okay, go back up to 110. I'll just delete these while I'm here. Now that number is going to change because I'm deleting 2 of them. So it's going to be 108. Okay. Control S and edit. And we'll just snap to node. Okay. I'll just insert because I kind of think I have to. Okay. A lot of nodes here. Okay. I think it looks okay. Okay, perfect. So there you go. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I mean, I think it looks better than it did before. I know that's a weird shape there. I could have probably come up with something better, but so Control S, and I'll just delete the circle that I was using. I'll click here. I'll scroll all the way up. Hold Shift. Group 1. Control S again. And now this is what I'll auto repeat. So I'll go to Build, Auto Repeat, Line, right click, Count 2, Transform, Parallel to Baseline, Mirror horizontally, and Preview. And there it is. And hit the check once. And they're both selected. Hold Control and Alt and hit C. And there you go. Control S. And my params should be set at well, for this, I probably should go 1.5 and 2, but I'll leave it at 2 and 2. And we'll just hit apply because I have my default set for 2 and 2 by using the 3 dots up here for outlines. Okay, hit done. Let's see how it looks in 3D. Very pretty. Very pretty. And look at how these hang down. That's so cute. Aw. I love that. And this doesn't look bad. So then, since they, this one and they both begin and end right here, even the outlines, when I right click, create connection, look at, you could see that yellow. It's a teeny, teeny, tiny connection. It's like invisible almost. Let's just hit Control-1. Okay, we don't need to zoom that close. So that's something so small that I would just leave it. I mean, yeah, I could curve it down, but I don't want any more bulk in through here. I would just leave it and generate it. And I don't know if I like it. I could land a stitch point in the center because, then your connections kind of get invisible. I don't know how I feel about bringing it down. I can't decide. It's crooked for one. I don't like that. I don't know why they didn't come through in the same horizontal plane. I mean, they're exactly the same. So let's just see. Because if I take my right mouse, if I just inserted to get a square node and then 2 round nodes and came down here, I mean, I don't have to, I'll just snap to grid. I don't have to go all the way in on top. I could just make it like that, and I mean, I could make it like that, or I could make it more like this. But you'd have to bring down a guide and then snap to guide. And I could take off grid and node. They're not exactly going to be perfectly centered. However, I could delete this one and then just do edge mirror. Duplicate and mirror horizontally, and hopefully that snaps to the correct node. With it selected, you could always go to nodes, align end to next object. Now you know for sure it's snapping. And since everything else is 2 and 2, I could make these 1.5 and 2, So you could do something like that, or you could turn it into an outline and make it 2 and 2 if you wanted. But if you make the maximum 2, it should, and if it can make 2 mils, it will. So if I hit generate, okay, it didn't. It made it straight because it's so darn small. So if I made it smaller, if I made the stitch the minimum smaller than 1.5, it probably would have curved like this. But I'm fine even with that. I'm sure that looks fine. Let's go into 3D. So, I don't know. Am I fine with it? I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I wanted it to come all the way down. Probably because I'm so OCD. So I'll click on this. I clicked edit and I had this invisible one showing. Let's X out of that. Okay. Yes, Lisa, you are OCD. So zoom out a little bit. And I'll just bring that node down. So I'll snap to grid, uncheck everything else, and just bring it down. kind of to where this divot is, and I'll leave those two the way they are because it's going to do what it wants anyways because of the way I have the stitch length. Yeah, did that. Let's see how that looks in 3D. That's fine. I'm just going to go with that. So Control S, and so that's one option. And now we will, let's group that. On group 1 is taken, group 2, Control 1, zoom to it. Let's get rid of these. And there you go. That's really cute. Very cute. So, okay, well, let's go back to the video and I'll show you some other places to put your mesh origin, and we'll also make other types of connections up to an echo line and so on. All right, guys. If we let the mesh origin like come from here, it's going to look totally different. We may have this type of a stem here. If we let the mesh origin originate from the center, we might not get this cascading. I mean, I'm just guessing here. I'm thinking this through. So let's keep that in mind, that now that we have our sizes down, we can kind of go back to our mesh and kind of see if we feel like changing our mesh origin. I wouldn't get rid of this though. I'd keep it. And I would just copy paste it. Control C, Control V. And bring this one up. I'll just do insert before. And, you know, maybe make this one, say, darker green. Okay. And this is okay to delete so we don't get confused because we have the original mesh. But I could click on this one. I could bring it up, bring it into view. And like I said, since well, let's just keep this purple one showing. I'll hide the orange one so we don't get too confused. Okay. But let's go into this and let's kind of play around with it and say, okay, let's see what would happen if I made my mesh origin there. I'm going to zoom in. Click it so it's blue and then draw your box. I'm going to right click, place mesh origin. Now they don't snap to like everything else. I kind of wish I would have requested that these snap to nodes as well. But so I've got it there. Let's just see what we create. Let's hit Control 1. This is just so much fun with this mesh. And let's generate. We're keeping all our params the same. Okay, it's different. It's cascading different. The roses are over here on the edge instead of here mostly. There's some down here. We do have it like right there. So that will be our connection. It looks like this is out farther than this. It kind of looks like it. Let's see. I don't know. No, this curve is out farther than this. So if we did make an auto repeat and connected it up there, we'd probably have to extend this a little. So let's go back here on to this one and let's try something else. Now Dushan did say, and it's on Embird's website, that if you don't have a mesh origin, it'll originate from the center of the design. But I don't know a way of deleting the mesh origin I just don't know a way of deleting it. I don't know how I got rid of it. So I'm just going to come here and pretty much kind of guess where the center is. I could go ahead and just hit enter. Oh, so they have the center. I'm sorry. So it is at the 0 still because this is still centered. Okay. So my center would be at 0, 0. It would be like here. That would be, that's not the center of the design of the actual stitches. I'm a little confused about the center. Does he mean the center of the mesh object with its bounding box, or the actual center, like, of where the stitches would be? I'm not sure, but I am going to go ahead and try it both ways. So I'm going to click on, say, 0, 0 here. Or I could click on that node. I'm going to just draw a box. Should I click here or here? I don't know. Try 0, 0. Place. Mesh origin here. I'll hit enter. Control 1. I'll generate. It's taking longer, so it obviously doesn't like me having the mesh origin outside of the vector object. I have had this happen where it just takes longer for it to think. So maybe the next time I'll just go inside of it just to see. And sometimes I've had it where nothing generates because it's just like, I don't know what you want, lady. You know, I'll come back to the video so you don't have to wait. That almost looks like it generated the same exact thing because I have something up here. I think it did the exact same thing because I think it got confused. I'm going to hit edit and I'm going to click somewhere inside, kind of like, I'll go right here. Place mesh origin. So maybe it won't have to take as long to generate. And if this doesn't give me something nice, I'll just go back to the, okay, see how fast that was? So that generated, the origin is like, I don't know, I thought I clicked on, did I click on this point? I don't know where I clicked. But this does look like that's the farthest edge. And, you know, if we look at this green, dark green mesh object, it's showing that it is ending up there, like we told it to end up at, you know, up here, to start and end up here, even though it's originating from the center, but we don't have those funky lines going out. So we could use this one, although it is a little, it's pretty organic looking. You know, if you don't like it, I guess you could try a different mesh origin. I'm just going to go with this one, just so I don't waste any more of your time. Let me do options, guides, erase guides. And I'll hit Control S. So now I'm going to work with the dark green and convert that to outlines. Let's just see how it measures up. Convert, fill mesh sfumato, create outlines from mesh. Okay, here it is down here. I'll go ahead and hide this one. I'll click on this. It's not centered, of course, because it's hugging the stitches. Control-Alt-C to center it. And you can see it pretty much conforms, you know, up here, but it's pretty erratic with this gap in through here. I guess that's okay. These are following the purple pretty well, you know. So I guess I could go with that if I did really not like it, you know, I guess I could go off camera and try to find a different mesh origin that maybe fills it out more. I guess I could do that. So I'll just do that off camera. So I tried different mesh origins and I came up with this one to try and maybe manipulate it a little bit more. And if I click edit, I put the mesh over here. So I did go ahead and I converted this mesh object, you know, fill mesh sfumato, converted it to outlines. And these are my outlines down here. They're hidden. But I manipulated this shape, okay? And I manipulated it using, let me first show you. I'll hide this one, the original mesh. I'll bring back the outline, show you what I came up with. It does look a little distorted right there, but it might just, that might lend itself to, you know, the interest. But what I did was you know, this is my little purple rectangle that I want to follow, because this is going to be half of my green. So the first thing I did was I just took these handles and I pulled down, you know, I pulled it up and down to get it within the range of the purple. You know, this one, I pulled it and dragged it there. And I did it so that like the tallest object, which was originally this one, was in line with the purple box. And then I still wasn't in line. So I, you know, selected it again, the outlines, and I went to transform envelope. And with envelope, you can move things around with these vector nodes. So these are like Bezier vector nodes, but it's on the boundaries of your object. And I think at first I asked for 2 lines and I just kind of moved it up and down, you know. 2 lines on the horizontal edge. And then, you know, if that doesn't look good, you can ask for 2 curves and then you get more nodes. And then maybe I could bring this down a hair so that rose is within line. And I think this was like way up there and I brought it down. And you start to get a little bit of distortion, so you have to be careful. And again, you know, there were nodes down here that you could move around. So, and then you could go to the vertical edges and you could start with 2 lines, you know, and just kind of bring it in. But then you can also go to 2 curves to try to get maybe one part. I wanted to make sure the rose was sticking out more because I wanted it to connect at the rose. So I kind of tried to maybe take this up and bring this one in, and then maybe somehow make sure that the rose was sticking out. I guess I could have grabbed this to bring the rose out. It would have been a little wider, but at least it would be, you know, wider than this. And like I said, this got a little distorted, and you know, you could work on this edge if you want. This edge was pretty good. I think I might have done two lines and brought it in, you know, but you do have to be careful because you end up changing the size of everything. You could squish things. So you know, I ended up with something like that. And then I went and I did auto repeat on that and then centered it and saw how it looked inside the green, because remember the green is my echo box. So Control S, I have the outline selected, and I'll do build, auto repeat, line, parallel to baseline, mirror horizontal, layout, right click to, preview, and that's what I got. Check. And with them both selected, I'll hit Control Alt C. I'll hide the purple just so that I could see, you know, everything. And it does look like it's pretty well, you know, a 1/4 inch in. You know, it is organic up here, but that's okay. If I go into 3D, don't believe I generated these outline stitches, so let's generate them. They don't really look good with the dark green though, so I should make them a better color. Let's go with like a lighter blue. And so, you know, it could look something like that. And then I could right click here, create connection to previous object. Here's my connection, Control 1. Whoops, I did Control 2. Oh, what does Control 2 do? Let's go into vector view. So there it is there. And like I said, I could leave them like that, just connecting across. You probably wouldn't even barely be able to see them, but of course I could connect it down here. So I can hit edit and insert so it's a square node. And here I'm on my outline here. It almost doesn't look like this is completely centered, so I'm not going to snap to grid. I'm just going to snap to outline. And I'll just bring this down. Snap it. And I'll bring down a guide, snap to guide, and outline edge. Snap that one. Snap that one. Enter. So that could be my Control S, my connection to those two. And then if you recall, this, let's take all of these little utility, hold shift, those are my little helpers. I'll just group them. They're hidden. But this is my actual outline. And I'll insert after. I'll make it the same color. Oh, not right click. I'm in Studio Next. You just drag up, set identical color, and Control 1. Okay. So from here to here, I could just right click and create connection. Oh, that's right. I forgot to state where this outline was going to begin and end. So I'm just going to delete that connection so you don't get confused. Let's edit the outline because we want there to be a square node here in the center. So if I hit edit, because remember this is like my echo line. Now I'm going to just tell the start point to start way up here. I can zoom in a little bit. So, because I'm going to delete this just because it's easier to make a node here. if I delete this. So I'm going to right click, place start point here for right now. Then I can delete this. Then I'll click on this next one, the arrows pointing at it, and do an insert, and it'll insert exactly halfway between, which is right here at 0. There we go. And then this will be my right click, place start point. Okay. So now Control S, when I click on this next one and right click, create connection, there's my connection. And I could actually convert it to an outline just so that I could have the stitch lengths exactly the same as my mesh object. And I can't remember, I think if I converted these to outlines, then everything is 2 mils on these. Let me go ahead, I'm just going to hit params. Yeah, 2 and 2. I could have made them 1.5 and 2, but I am just going to convert this to an outline. Convert connection to outline. So then I can, you know, and hopefully it took my params. Let's see. Yeah, it did. So now that it's an outline, I'm just going to zoom in on it. And I'm going to hit edit. And like I did before, I'm going to make it pretty. I'm just going to snap to the grid only. And I'll just bring it over and maybe, I don't know how wide. I don't want it to bang into the rows. I could make it, you know, a little bit fancy looking, so it's a little wider up here. And I'm just going to hit enter. I'm going to do this, you know, kind of a straightforward way. So it'll stitch the echo line first, and then when it's done, it'll stitch this line, then it'll stitch the main, and then after that it'll connect over and stitch the right side, and then after the right side we want to just, I'll just create more outlines. So, but the easiest way, honestly, so I don't have to fish around for like where I'm supposed to be connecting to, the easiest way is to take your rectangle, Control C, Control V, now it's at the bottom, and just right click, create connection. And so now, you know, it's already connected. So all I have to do is convert connection to outline. I don't need this box anymore, although I do, because I was going to double stitch the box, so that's kind of good. I'll bring it up, insert before. I got 2 boxes now up there, and on this outline I'll just hit edit, and then snap to grid is still on. I'll snap it to the same as this one was, and I tried to create a backward path, and oh, now it's going to work because it's the feet are red. You can just go to Control S, go to Build, Outlines, Create Backward Path. So now it just creates it. Now it goes back. So there's my double line there. And then I could just click on this one so I'm exactly on it and do Control C, Control V. But then this time just reverse it. So edit, edge, reverse nodes order. So now it's going in the right direction. So now the scissors should be gone. Oh no, because I forgot. From here to here, there is a tiny little gap there. So on this outline, or this one or the other, I want to zoom down there. I have to connect those two. They don't automatically connect. I'll show you what I mean. Because the roses aren't exactly touching. So if I click on this outline and hit edit, and then again, I could come down here and go up like I did with that that connection. There'll be like 4 layers on here, or I could just click over and have snap to node on and just snap there, make this straight. And if I did that, maybe I should have made the connection to the roses here, then it wouldn't be on top of these. You know what I mean? So it's totally up to you. Sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable with having all these stitches on top of each other in such a small area. So maybe I will do that, and maybe I'll convert this to an outline as well, just so that I can get them all to be 2 millimeters in stitch length. Whoops, didn't mean to convert it to manual. Convert manual to connection. I could have did undo, but convert connection to outline. And like I said, maybe I will just make it straight across. I'll hit edit. Just take this and delete it, make this straight. And there you go. It's the same stitch on top of each other. Because if I just delete this, these two are not going to be connected anymore because there's just a little piece of blue there. Okay. And then it stitches the two squares, it stitches that, then it stitches the whole left side, then it jumps over and it stitches the whole right side, and then it stitches that, then it does the backward path. This is the one where it juts over to the left. It juts over to the left, and I could show you how this one would stitch out. Everything, Control S, and I'll do a Control 1 and do a sew sim. Okay, so it starts there. I wanted the rectangles to, let me stop. The rectangles are supposed to stitch first. I don't know if they just weren't generated, and that's why. I'll just generate everything. Let's click here, hold Shift, and we'll generate everything. And then we'll do a sew sim. And I could go into 3D. Let's get rid of this. I think these are locked. Options, guides, erase guides. And hold Shift, Control S, and then we'll sew sim this. You can see there's nothing up here. There's not even connections showing, so nothing is going to stop. It's going to stitch continuously. So it's stitching the square, and then it jumps. It doesn't jump, but it stitches down, and it does the whole left side. We'll jump up to 200. And then it just, came over that connection stitch that I turned into an outline. See, I turned everything into outline, so you don't even see any little connection stitches up here. So it doesn't stop. I even had it to stop on jumps. It didn't stop at all. And so that could be one way to do it. So you would just quilt that right on your quilt sandwich. Remember, the bright blue is the seam of the quilt, and then here's your echo, and then here's your pretty little design inside the echo. Now, if you wanted, like I was going to say, on this original one, where we actually had it you know, the mesh origin was here in the corner. Okay. It did seem to create a more uniform design. I mean, you know, I had it on range 1 for all of them, so it should have been real consistent size levels, okay, of my sprouts. But as you can see, when I did the darker green, I had that one that was really big, you know, and I'll show you again. Oh, I'd have to generate it. So that parameters with the size levels, I mean, that's kind of like a organic guide, because look at how big this one is, okay? And again, this was the same params, it was range of 1. So that's why I just decided I'll just bring these handles into my purple rectangle and bring it down, and then I'll use the transform envelope tool. That's what I did. But I did it on the outlines. You don't want to do that on the mesh because then you distort your mesh. So you do all that on the outlines. So here are the two options that we discussed. The first one is where I had the origin point up in the corner, but then on the outlines, I deleted that little stem that was sticking out up here, and then I kind of fixed that the best I could. And on this one, I had the mesh origin like more around here, maybe. And I didn't have to worry about deleting anything in the corner. But it was, you know, very organic looking. So I converted it to an outline, and I used the handles, you know, little square handles to pull it in, you know, to fit into my area of my quilt block. This is an 8-inch quilt block. I also used transform envelope to kind of bring in certain areas, but as you can see, it's a little bit squished looking. So if you didn't want it to look squished, then you would take your original mesh, you know, rectangle, and just make that a little bit narrower, in which case you'd have more circular mesh objects. So either way, you know, it's still beautiful. It's still beautiful. If you didn't see this one, you'd never really know that this one was squished. So I hope this was helpful. And remember, sometimes your mesh origin on your original mesh object, sometimes it will move or disappear. So, you know, if you try to auto repeat it, or sometimes if you move it, or if you copy paste it from another file, sometimes the mesh origin is gone and then you don't get back your original design. So my advice is, as soon as you make your mesh origin that you want to work with, immediately turn it into an outline. And then try not to move the original, just hide it. So that's kind of my advice until maybe Embird addresses that, or maybe that's just the way it's going to be. I don't know. I did report it to Dushan. So there you go, guys. So we will see you in the next curly plant video. I believe that one is going to be carvings, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look at my notes. All right. We'll see you then. Bye.